Thomas Westbrook here, and you're watching Atheist Edge.
All right, get back on.
Yeah, so let's talk about discipline, because that's a big part of being a parent and raising kids. You want to set them on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
But we need a little bit more discipline in keeping our topics straight. But but if you're disciplining your kid, I mean, there's a proportional nature to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the punishment has to fit the crime. If your kid sticks their tongue out at you, you're not gonna like beat the crap out of them or something like that. Or if they call into a kid a name, you don't banish them from your house for the rest of their waking lives. But with God, that's kind of the default, no matter what the offense is. Whether the punishment for murdering someone is the same as the punishment for covetousness. Or lying or stealing.
Right.
There's no gradations there, and the punishment for a first offense is banishment into fire and brimstone for all eternity.
Yeah.
And you're trying to work your way up from that.
Yeah, we've talked about that in multiple videos, but I think we talked about the scapegoat thing of Jesus dying for your sins, and not only forgiving that you committed an act, but making it as if you hadn't in the first place, and that's really
But he's
awful.
talking about eternal. Our little 3-pound hard drives cannot fathom an eternal punishment. But
Right.
here it is, an eternal punishment for a finite crime.
Right.
No matter how ruthless that finite crime is, an eternal punishment, think about it.
Yeah. Matt Dillahunty has a series of talks. Do you know what they're called?
Atheist speaks, or an atheist reads. No, that's...
No, it's like...
Damn it.
We'll find it and have it up there.
Oh, there it is. Look. There's Matt Dillon.
Yay. But he's got this amazing series of
It's just
talks.
him talking to the camera.
And I've been nerding
Is that
out
the
on
words,
it.
or-
There's a recent talk about hell. It's awesome. But that sounded weird.
I saw your
but,
Facebook post yesterday.
Yeah, I
you've
had
been
to.
nerding out
I had
like
to
it's cool.
share it. Yeah, it is cool. But he gives a really interesting perspective of that kind of morality of him, and Cosmic Skeptic has a really good video on that too, of the idea of eternal punishment for a finite crime, and gives really good analogies of what this looks like. Telling a kid that you're gonna suffocate them until they die because of something, and no, you're gonna suffocate them for the rest of not only their lives but eternity. Like, it's unfathomable. But what's awful is Matt Dillahunty has a video on hell, kind of that whole concept, and he talks about this idea of there being just an unfathomable immorality tied to hell, and just the unproportionate crime versus punishment thing.
Yeah.
So it is really, really immoral.
Yeah, I mean the whole point of discipline, usually in the way it's applied to kids, is that it's a temporary suffering, but it's for an ultimate purpose. And then there's a lot of times you got to do that with kids. Like kids don't get why they have to get a shot for a vaccination or something like that. And I've heard that analogy used to apply to like suffering as a whole, where sometimes we suffer and we don't know why, but God has that higher perspective. Just as a parent, your kid doesn't understand why they're getting that shot. They just know that it hurts. But as a parent, what they can't know, that is to prevent a lifetime of disease and pain and torment. But at the same time, let's say hypothetically that someday they invent a technology where you can deliver a vaccination in exactly the same effectiveness, but without the shot. You can get all the benefits with none of the pain.
Okay.
Would you still take your kid to get a shot at that point?
Probably not.
Yeah, because at this point, if there's no reason for the pain,
Right.
then
That's really good,
choosing to inflict that pain reflects on you.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Dude, that's good.
I know, that's why I wrote it.
Oh,
You're so surprised, Jim.
No. I actually read the Deadbeat Dad one on his blog. Sleeping in Sundays. It'll be right behind us. But no, I read it, but it didn't really resonate with me until just now.
Yeah, because
That's good.
I mean, there's the assumption that, you know, when it comes to suffering, that God has a grand plan.
Right.
But you have to assume then that whatever you're going through, God couldn't possibly come up with a better way to accomplish it.
Right.
Like, you remember the Francis Collins book that we just read,
Language of God.
Language of God. It was a good book, and he talks about trying to, as a believer, grapple with his daughter's sexual assault, and he was trying to figure out, okay, why did this happen? And he kind of came to a conclusion for himself personally that God was trying to teach him to let go of certain things and rely on God's provision. And it's
I
like,
know what you were about to say, because I'm thinking it too, I think.
and there's a whole range of responses to that. But for our purposes here, it's got to be, could God not have taught that lesson any other way than to
That's
bring
good,
his
too.
daughter
That's
into
how I'm
it?
thinking that.
It's just,
How self-centered are you to
So
think it's all
creepy.
about you, though, and how it's a lesson for you, and
Right.
you forget about that she.
That's true.
What happened to her, and
Right.
how can we look after her? How can we care for her? And what are the repercussions? But no, it was a life lesson for me.
well, he
That's what I'm thinking.
So many things wrong.
yeah, I mean, and he goes into his daughter and he talks about how his daughter's experience with that suffering has allowed her to help other women who have dealt with the same thing. But why does anyone have to deal with this at all? Like, God has the ability to eradicate that kind of suffering altogether.
You're gonna make me an anti-theist before the end of this show.
Aren't
Yeah,
you?
fuck those
No.
guys. Sorry.
Oh, jeez.
Oh yeah,
We'll talk
Lance,
about
you're
it.
an anti-theist, aren't you?
Yeah.
But I mean,
No, I think there's actually some good to it. But you keep talking. I'm not going to anymore.
we know at least
What?
from this at least.
I know.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Just a quick tangent. Sorry.
Antitheist doesn't mean that you don't think there's no value in religion. It
Yeah,
just means
pretty
that
much
you
does.
No.
An anti-theist thinks there's no
No.
redeeming value to religion.
No.
It should go away.
That is not the correct definition. It's
All
just
right.
that you think religion is harmful, and it
Isn't
at
that the
least
same thing?
and the most like gracious version of it is that you think there's more harm than good. So that's anti-theism.
That's a weak version of it.
No, it's not
A true
weak.
anti-theist
It's
is
just
religion needs
people's
to go
actual
away. There's
opinion.
no redeeming value. Right? Am I right?
No, no.
I would say
No.
I would say that my definition from off camera is that religion just does more harm than good.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Anti-theism.
Then I had a different definition of it. Then I'm sorry.
It's Hitchens. Hitchens. I don't think he would have ever said that people
Sorry for
don't.
the tangent, but yeah.
Yeah, people don't get a value out of religion, just that it outweighs,
The only-
the harm outweighs the benefit.
The only
and
real,
that overall,
the only
it's not
real
such a great
net-
thing.
Yeah, okay. The only true net benefit to religion that I can see as in human evolution is that it gives people comfort, the ones that need it, because there are a certain subset.
Countered the argument that I'm sure made a lot of people
Come on, deity.
get away from that idea.
Remember.
And so it's
I will link that video. It's right behind us.
it's my
Courtney goes off on a rant about
my
John
rant
Terry. Yeah.
at the end. So there's that argument of if this deity has the knowledge to prevent suffering that isn't necessary, then why would he not do that if he's benevolent?
Yeah, or at least not be like, hey, you don't want to be like those Pharisees with their hygiene and whatever.
Yeah.
But so they figured out that God, crappy father, and I can totally see why Jesus went to live with his mother and
I'm
stepfather.
a crappy
People
father, but
call
I'm here
him-
and I love them.
People call him Father God. People, there are
They
certain,
totally look at him
certain
as
sects.
he's their father. It is a patriarchal religion,
Yes.
like most of them are.
Yes.
He's looking after them. Yeah, well,
Especially Orthodox Judaism.
and the whole sheep and the shepherd thing too. But
And
that's all.
Mormonism.
That's another art. Anyway.
So, yeah, well, we got to wrap it up here. Thanks for watching. Check out my blog, sleepinginsundays.com, updated sometimes.
That's
and
a cool
Jim,
title.
you had
It's
a...
really good. You haven't watched it? You haven't read it?
I just heard about it, so I will find
You
out.
can get on a mailing list. At the bottom, put yourself on the mailing list so I get little email notifications.
Yeah.
And it's
Technology.
Yep, and he's part of the Atheist and Christian Book Club. So anytime after every book club meeting,
That's fun.
after every book club meeting, he does a little Sometimes he does a little synopsis of what he learned, and he'll just throw spaghetti on the wall and just all his thoughts on how it went. And
Cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Cool.
Okay.
Also, within our channel, we have kind of the live stream and entire debate of back and forth of that Atheist Christian Book Club that we are part of. So
That's right. That's
I
in the
haven't been to
playlist.
many, but I'm planning to go to the next one. So
Awesome. Yeah, that's in the playlist of Atheist Christian Book Club. And the last two things, I would be remiss if I didn't. I have to return the favor because Cyrus the Skeptic, right behind us, he is this young man. I met him at the Faithless Forum in Dallas. You met him.
yeah,
Him and his wife or girlfriend, I forget.
editor. I know she was like
did all
the
the
producer.
filming. Yeah, she was
Yeah.
doing all the camera work there.
Yeah.
But this kid is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's really, I'm linking behind me to get, and in the description below, you're going to see the link to get to his channel. But this kid really impressed me. I did an interview with him, and he's going places. So check him out. Check out the Faithless Forum.
And
That was the first ever, and it's going to be an ongoing thing. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's going to be in Dallas. Hopefully, it will be again.
Maybe.
But yeah.
And I got to fangirl all over genetically modified skeptics. So
Yes.
there's
Do
we have
people know his real name?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't know.
so-
But Anthony Magnabosco, I became a very big fan of at the talk, and I'm sure if you see our video of him, my interview with him, you can see that I just am enamored. And he mentioned a podcast on there that I really want to mention too. It's called the You Are Not So Smart podcast, and it is badass. It is so awesome. So yes.
So Anthony Magnabosco is the street epistemology guy.
Yeah, street
He's the one that goes
epistemology.
around in public areas with the GoPro, and he uses a particular Socratic method to ask questions and get people to really come out of their shell and challenge their long-held beliefs.
Yeah.
But it's great. Who
very
else was
cool.
there? Prophet of Zod. He's kind of a smaller YouTuber, really good. He lives in Alaska and
Telltale.
Telltale Atheist.
And Godless Engineer.
I think next year is going to be even bigger.
And Holy Kool-Aid was one of the
course,
major
Thomas Westbrook
organizers
was
of that
the
time.
headliner.
Yeah. And
Cross your fingers, guys.
If you guys if you can find the video of that conference, they had a camera going. He's really charismatic. He really got the crowd going, and he was really
They
enthusiastic
did a
about
live
the
show
conference.
after the event
Yep.
from their hotel room.
Yeah.
They were all drinking, and it was just them just
Sounds like our
spitballing.
show.
Yeah, sounds kind of like
Yeah.
TJ and I a couple
Just
weeks ago,
riffing.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. And next year, hey, cross your fingers. Maybe we'll be on the other side of the camera this time.
Yeah, I don't know if they caught that on film, but at the very end, they sort of called
They
us
shouted
up
us
and
out.
we took
which was
pictures
awesome.
and yeah.
I did not expect that.
So-
I signed my third and my fourth autograph that day.
Also, Genetically Modified Skeptic mentioned that there were a lot of followers of his that weren't aware that there are local groups in our community that you can come to meetups of and be a part of. So he wanted to attend some of our meetups at Metroplex Atheists. I'm president of that club currently, and he's secretary. And just wanted to use this video and many others, I'm sure, to mention that we are here. We're in the DFW area. There are other groups as well, and if you are not aware that there's this entire community available to support
It's
you
out there.
and to make friends and to talk about the crazy conservative South that we live in and rant about it, or just have people to chat with about whatever else random topic that you want. We have a lot of fun, and we are on Metroplex Atheists. There are so many other groups. If you go on
We're not
Meetup,
even the biggest
you can
in
get
Dallas-Fort Worth. We're the oldest,
right.
but we're not the
We are
biggest.
the oldest. We are the most activist as well
Yeah.
in the local area. So if you are looking for that community and looking for something to be a part of and to make friends and feel very alone in your atheism, I did when I first started. There are many groups that you can be a part of, so come out and see us, and we're awesome.
Chris is awesome. Thank you,
Yes.
Chris. That was
Yes.
awesome. And Sleeping In Sundays right behind us one more time. And thanks a lot for coming out, man.
Thanks, guys.
Atheist Age.
Human beings on this planet that without religion, they would be slitting their wrists right now.
Yeah,
And for them,
right.
keep believing in that weird fucking thing.
Okay, but an anti-theist would say, there's a comfort, but does that comfort outweigh the fact that you are living in a false reality with false hope?
Ooh,
And,
Matrix.
and that you could be much more vulnerable to dogmatic behavior, things like politics, things like Nazism or white supremacy or cults, things like that, that you're more susceptible to that because you believe in these supernatural things versus basing your understanding of reality in actual reality, in evidence. And that's, it's really scary when people start talking about dogmatic behavior being beneficial because it offers a comfort, because it's, okay, we can't say 100% that it's a false hope, but if it is, then it's that benefit alone isn't outweighing all the harm that comes out of religion, and
If it keeps you alive, keeps you sane.
living within the realm of reality, I think is always more beneficial than living in a happy fairyland. And I don't want to, make that characterization about Christianity. People have legitimate religions and
There he
beliefs,
goes.
but it's really difficult to, to make that argument that no matter what happens within religion, it's okay because people get comfort from it. But atheists come to a point, many of them, most of them I would say, that don't need that type of comfort. I don't think that human beings need that. I think we live in a culture where that is accepted as something that is necessary, and I think that those things are necessary only because we live in this culture and because people think there's no other way to live their lives and have meaning and have a purpose to their lives and have transcendent experiences, and all of those things are achievable within a secular context.
This is from off camera. Can you justify here, buddy, this is part of you. The 9/11 terrorists with the idea that these beliefs bring them comfort?
Yeah.
Well, okay, no, buddy, you're not.
Yeah, I didn't really catch
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Can you justify the
All right.
9/11 terrorists with the idea that these beliefs bring
It
those
totally
people
did
comfort?
give them comfort.
Yeah, like-
because
It does.
they were looking at the eternal paradise with their 72 virgins.
Yeah, that's a real.
Now we're way on it.
I know it's a really
No, but
good
that's-
question,
but
but we
that's the
are on a
point of
time
this-
frame.
of
I
this
know,
discussion. That's the point of the
Yeah.
discussion.
but
I was gonna say, are you guys Matrix fans at all? Do you remember Cypher? He was eating the steak with Agent
Yep.
Smith, and he said,
Yep.
"Hey, I
Ignorance
want
is bliss.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Well, that's,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I love that. I love that
That's
movie.
my favorite movie on earth.
It is. It's really good. And maybe.
Reinsert it back in
Okay,
the Matrix
okay,
without. I
but-
don't want to know what happened.
But the
before
only
this.
problem with that argument for me is that there's no way that we can live in that world and decide from a bird's eye view, hindsight, that this was more beneficial than that. I think living within reality makes you less susceptible to being hoodwinked into other harmful things, and again, living within evidence and reality is much more beneficial than living in your own version of reality just because you find it more comforting than
yeah.
some unknown thing that you
boils down
may
to-
find just as comforting in your life.
If it boils down to what do you want, a painful reality or a comfortable falsehood?
But it's not that painful. It's once you're able to process it
For
as a
many
human
people
being.
on Earth, knowing that when this life is over, that you are fertilizer, is painful.
Yeah, but
compared to the comfort.
no.
I'm
but it's
going to
not.
admit something to you. It's a little bit painful for me to think about too.
But what I'm telling you is, it's
Not
only
there, I just
painful.
admitted it.
It's only painful because of the culture that we live in, and because this is the time that that's me. But it's.
You didn't silence. Courtney didn't silence her phone,
I'm
ladies
sorry,
and gentlemen.
guys.
Fail.
Atheists are the worst.
We got
This
6
is
minutes.
this is a long tangent. I'm sorry, but it's
But we
just
got
such
6
an
minutes,
important
and we're
thing.
gonna get him back to the
Right.
end. Okay.
It's okay, I got the last bit. Anyway, from all that talk about suffering, we know at least that God is not a helicopter parent. Everyone hates them unless you are one of
Helicopter
them.
God.
Yeah, if God had a helicopter, that would be
It's just
sweet. But everyone hates someone who's going in and micromanaging, trying to make everything right, so their little offspring doesn't need to experience any
Okay.
discomfort or problems in the world. But if you don't like that, the solution
It was in my
is
pocket.
first to silence your phone, and then second to
Did you see how natural of a just natural?
I didn't realize
Right,
it was
it's
in my
the same.
pocket. I thought it was over there somewhere.
But anyway, point being, if you don't like the helicopter parent, the solution is not to go completely in the opposite direction and just
Helicopter
let
guy.
your kids do whatever and be an absentee parent.
Right.
Because there's a point where your kids are going to do stupid stuff, and you need to be there to protect them from themselves and whatnot. And that comes up with like discussions of free will and where does God exert influence in our lives. Because the argument I hear from believers is that God can't interfere with our decision to love Him and come to a knowledge of Him and seek Him out. He wants us to come of our own accord.
Okay.
Which, fine, whatever. Let's give Him that. We could do a whole video on that. But
That's a whole nother.
yeah. But look at it this way.
I do
Look
not
at
own
it this
that
way.
phrase.
Well, what's at stake here? It's our eternities at stake here, and if your kid gets their hands on a gun somehow or something like that, you're not going to be like, okay, well, I don't want to take away his free will to make his own decisions, and we'll just see how this turns out. You're going
Yeah.
to take the damn gun away because it's in
Right.
their best interest.
Right.
And
Because
we
you don't know any better as that child.
yeah, and then
That's the point.
Yeah, the power is in you to make sure they're safe and they're well cared for. But theoretically, we're staring down the barrel of eternity at hell here.
Yes.
And, God can, I guess is noble in a weird way to let us make our own choices, but at the same time, he knows what's at stake.
Right.
And maybe giving us our free will is good in principle, but when push comes to shove, he knows what the consequences are going to be.
Right.
So I would hope that if he cares about the eternal resting place of our souls, then whether we want to come to him or not, he's going to take the gun away and not let us stumble over ourselves and wind up in an eternity that there's no coming back from.
Right.
That's brilliant.
That
is really brilliant, man. I mean, I never thought of us as just little infants playing with a loaded handgun, and God just refuses to. Oh, it just whatever. If he shoots himself, that's fine.
Well,
I
and-
gave him all the tools.
Yeah, and so in the real world that Christians make the argument for, that could be tied to this idea that, gay people and gay marriage being legalized causes hurricanes and stuff like that.
Jesus.
But also, like, cancer and things like that being something that is out of human beings' control. We don't have the knowledge of exactly where cancer comes from so much, and how to combat it and all of that. So maybe more an easier analogy would be germ theory of all the people that died.
Here we go. Go ahead.
Yeah, Scripture, man. Scripture did not warn
Germ
humanity.
theory.
Yeah.
Go- Yeah.
Arr!
Walking the edge of what some consider offensive. But your feelings don't matter here, only facts. Edgy commentary on the dangers of doctrine, the foibles of faith, the bullshit of belief, the stupidity of superstition, and the idiocy of indoctrination. With razor-sharp wit, curiosity, and critical thought, we take an unblinking look at today's religions. We are Atheist Edge.